目指した未来や全ての君を背負ってたどり着いてみせるから閉ざされた未来を終わらせて今度こそは全て守るよ最後の運命をつかめるやろ。
Hey guys, if you haven't already, give the video a like, subscribe to my channel. This is a what if series and I'll be doing more down the road. Plus Ultra.
Hey guys, and welcome to What If Luffy Awakened His Devil Fruit earlier on. So the thing that we left off with was with Luffy and, well, Shanks basically stopping Akainu's punch on Luffy after he powered down from using Gear 5. Of course, now Luffy doesn't know that as to be Gear 5, but, of course, things just gotta look crazy. It just gotta look crazy with the last part. Anyway, so Shanks came in to stop the war, and everything was stopped early on. Ace was saved, and everything went according to plan. It went the way, it didn't go the way that Luffy thought it was gonna go. He thought he was going to save Ace, very like, oh, well, getting up there to save Ace, but he didn't think this power was going to come out of nowhere. But anyway, nonetheless, he managed to save his brother, and everything came to an end. But this is the problem right here. The government, with everyone seeing what Luffy just did and how he just did it and everything else, yeah, the government put Luffy's bounty up to a Yonko level, really to a Yonko level. If it was a 1.5 in the anime, it's going to be like 1.9 right here. Why they gave him that extra bump and everything? They want everyone to know just how dangerous Luffy is and his devil fruit. Yeah. Anyway, so after everything played out, Luffy would get taken by Shanks because he falls unconscious. He would get through to Law. Law would take Luffy and start operating on him, making sure that he's okay, and then they would escape. They would all escape from the battle. Now, with all that being said, now we get to the part where Luffy's on the island and he basically knows that his brother's alive. His brother Ace comes to the island and hugs Luffy and tells him and thanks him for everything. And he's also questioning Luffy about that new power that he had. But this is where Ace tells Luffy that Whitebeard is not going to be around for long, so you might actually become the king of pirates without any hesitation. And this is where Ace says, well, Luffy tells Ace, what about you? Don't you want to become the king? And Ace would say, no, that's not my dream. That's your dream, Luffy. But anyway, I don't have anybody to push towards becoming the king because Whitebeard's not ready for it. He's not suited for it anymore. He's up in age, so it's just a matter of time before he passes away from us. Anyway, so Ace would wave Luffy goodbye and he would go on about his business. Now, Luffy would tell Ace to be careful, but this is where Luffy would stretch out his arm, grab Ace, and bring him back to Ruskina. And this is where he would tell Ace to basically train here for a while to get stronger. I know that you want to go off back to your ship and everything, but right now it will be very beneficial for you to train and become stronger, that next time something like this cannot happen. And of course, Blackbeard didn't get his whole double fruit thing. He doesn't have his whole Whitebeard double fruit, and he doesn't raise up to become a Yonko or nothing like that. He's still just normal Blackbeard, part of the worst generation, so he doesn't raise up to become a black Yonko. Nope. Not this time and not in this universe. So with all that being said, this is where Ace and Luffy would train together on Ruskina with Rayleigh. Now, all of them would train very heavily for these 2 years. And having someone to fight against would be very easily. Now, Ace, I didn't doubt that Ace didn't know armament hockey because he knew Conqueror's hockey and everything else. But it would just make his stuff very proficient. Having somebody to fight made Luffy improve really well, and to the point where he pulled out Gear 4th. He already knew about Gear 1, 2, and 3. Well, basically 2 and 3. I ain't gonna say Gear 1, Gear 1st or something like that. But Gear 2, 3, and 4. Not because he created 4 on the island to fight against those big apes. But then he started to notice that Gear 5 is the equivalent of all 3 of those forms, 2, 3, and 4. Now, this is where he goes into his Gear 5, his Gear 5th form, and keeps training in that form over and over again. And Luffy gets highly familiar with that form. It doesn't, as he trains with it and becomes more stronger with it, it doesn't tax his body as much. Like, remember how when he transformed into Gear 3rd, it would tax his body and turn him into like a small person? Well, it's not that much. Since Luffy's on this island and he's most likely using it for training purposes, he would train his hardest out. And when Luffy uses his Conqueror's Haki in this form, it will make every animal on the island fall unconscious. Rayleigh notes that Luffy in this form is very, very strong, and it's basically the equivalent of all three of his forms, and it's not as taxing. I mean, it's taxing on his body, but Luffy, the way Rayleigh sees this, and he tells Luffy to basically try to master this form, and instead of trying to master Gear 4, which he sees is that it's heavily taxing on his body, this form looks more unique. It looks normal as much, but not necessarily normal. It does look ridiculous because Luffy can still bounce while he's in this form. So basically, it still is similar to Gear 4, to his previous forms. But anyway, tangent aside, as they train and training comes to a close, Luffy goes to get his hat from the rock that he left it at and puts it back on. Now, this is where he goes. Well, Ace been left. Ace left after, well, saying the first year. When he trained the first year with Luffy, he left and went on his own journey to go back to the ship because he heard that Whitebeard might not last any longer. So he wants to just go by and be by his side. And Luffy understood that. So with all that being said, Luffy would journey back to the island and everything would happen on the Sabaody Archipelago like it did in canon. Now, once they go to their ship and basically sink down, this is where Frankie would tell them that Bartholomew Kuma sat in front of his ship, sat in front of their ship and protected it for so long. I think he protected it for 2 years, keeping people away from their ship. So with all that being said, they would just thank him. That's all they could do was just thank Bartholomew Kuma for basically standing up for their ship. I think he's one of the reasons, he's one of the people that want to see the Straw Hats prosper. So once they get down there, and some of the crewmates ask Luffy about this new form of his, seeming as if this is the picture they see on the newspaper, and they're shocked right now. They're shocked because every Straw Hat knows that Luffy's bounty is 1.9 billion berries. Yes, he's on a Yonko level and is possibly considered the 5th Yonko or like earlier on. And at this point right here, Luffy tells the team that they need to get on their boat and sink down as fast as possible because if anyone knows that the Straw Hats are here, yeah, they're going to send an admiral. This time they're probably going to send 3. So they get on their ship and sink down to Fishman Island as fast as possible to get away from Sabaody Archipelago, with Luffy waving to Rayleigh, thank you for everything and see you around. So with all that being said, they sink down and then they have the normal chats and conversations that they did. And once they get to Fishman Island, Sanji would have a ball meeting the merfolk, and Luffy would go and meet Shirahoshi. She even would feed Luffy and poke his cheek, to which he would have that whole comedic moment. But nothing too drastic happens in Fishman Island. Nothing like wasn't even a candle. Luffy managed to beat the hell out of the Arlong wannabe, so it wasn't really anything holding a candle against him. Really, he just beat him easily. So yeah, and as far as everything else, Luffy wouldn't get tricked in selling his treasure away to give his treasure away or something like that, or nothing like that. He kept it. Yeah, kept it. And also he cussed Big Mom out and said that when he gets there, he's going to beat the crap out of her. And she should be prepared, which Big Mom gets offended by and tells Luffy that when she sees him, he's going to be dead. Literally dead. Anyway, so with all that being said, Fishman Island, then they go off after everything gets settled and stuff, and Luffy claims the territory of Fishman Island, and he even says that one day he's gonna let the Fishman Island see the world, see the upper level. He promised Shirahoshi that he's gonna take her to the real world, take her to basically up out of the water. Anyway, with that being said, Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats would then journey to Punk Hazard. Now, once they got to Punk Hazard, they know a lot of crude things are happening, and when they ran into Law would switch their bodies around, and this is where Luffy would look at Law and he would tell him that, what are you doing here? I mean, I thought you were doing your own thing. You're on an island, a smile factory. I wonder what secrets are going on here. And Law is very secretive at first because he doesn't want to reveal anything to why he's on this set place. So he really wants them to keep quiet and doesn't know why the Straw Hats are here in the first place. So with everything being said, they would find out that Punk Hazard, but I think it's Caesar, yes. He would be doing tests on these kids, making them grow, giving them candy, and making them very violent and ferocious. And this would very irk Nami to a point to where she would basically tried to fight Caesar, but you already know Caesar sucks away the gas and basically has them. But Luffy and the rest of them would have kicked like Caesar directly in the back and sending him flying to a wall, crashing and putting sea prism stones on his hands. And yeah, that's it. Caesar the Clown was easy to defeat. I mean, he wasn't a tough adversary at first. I mean, some things that he could do that were strong and everything, but they still got the upper hand over him and captured him nonetheless. So that being said, he wasn't that strong at first, or strong at all in general. I mean, his gas fruit could have been way stronger than what I'm thinking it could have been, but he just didn't prove to be a good adversary, like a tough opponent. They got him out the picture fast. Now, this is where the Straw Hats would get switched back and everything, and like Law would tell Luffy that, you know, it's very dangerous for a guy of your stature to be running around like you are. You have a huge bounty, 1.9 billion. And Law would be shocked by this, knowing that Luffy's bounty is that high and considered Yonko level. And Luffy just rubs the back of his head, smiling at this, saying it's not that big of a deal. And anyway, it's that basically to Luffy, it's one step, well, it's just steps of getting him closer to becoming the king of the pirates. Anyway, so with all that being said, Luffy would then rush off to basically help some of the kids that were there, and Chopper would be along with him, and Chopper would have came up with an antidote to cure some of the kids that were in there, basically shrinking them back to their normal state and taking them off the island of Vegapunk and getting them to safety. Now, yeah, of course, okay, not taking them off the island, of course, giving them to the Marines so the Marines can take them off the island and get them to safety and get them back to their set families. Anyway, so with that being said, now the pirates would journey to Dressrosa after Luffy and Law made a pact with each other saying that they would defeat Kaido. But first, they have to go to Dressrosa first. Anyway, so with that being said, Luffy... Well, the Straw Hats would get switched back to their normal bodies, but anyway, once they get to Dressrosa, everything normal would play out first. So there would be no tournament this time around. Luffy wouldn't even enter the tournament, so he would never meet Rebecca at the first time. I mean, at a point, they would bump into each other and meet, but he wouldn't meet her in the tournament because he doesn't compete in the tournament. He has no need to. The Flame Fruit is not a part of the tournament because Ace is not dead in this set. What if? So he would be sticking by Law's side, and their battles would be going very similar to the point where he would run into Doflamingo, and him and Doflamingo would have got into a scuffle, and Doflamingo would have got punched in the stomach, hit in the, like, just basically rapidly punched all over his body and coughed up blood, to the point where Luffy is predicting his movements. Yes, in this time skip, Luffy has achieved future foresight, and with awakening his devil fruit, it only made it that more potent. Now, this is where Luffy's conqueror's haki would have basically started shocking everywhere, and Doflamingo would have then got punched directly in the stomach again with a gum red rock, sending Doflamingo flying and crashing into a building or two. Now, this is where Luffy will look at Law, and him and Law would tag team Doflamingo very easily, coordinated too. They worked on a plan and advised a plan to beat Doflamingo and get rid of him as soon as possible, just literally get him out of the picture. And this is where Luffy would then say that I have a technique. Luffy transforms into Gear 4, not Gear 5, but Gear 4. He really doesn't see the use of transforming into Gear 5 as of yet, but he's going to transform into Gear 4 to basically hold a candle. So with him and Law, he punches Doflamingo directly in the stomach, and Law comes in and stabs him with like a scatter shot thing and shocks him all over his body. And this is where Doflamingo comes in with his strings and hits Law back and then grabs Luffy. Well, he rushes up to Luffy, but Luffy is fast, and he tells Doflamingo that you won't be able to catch me in this form. He thought you grabbed Luffy, but he basically just missed, as if it was just an after image. And Luffy came in and hit him with a Rhino Schneider directly in his face, sending him crashing towards the ground. Now, this is where someone would relay information to the rest of the crew, and the crew would come to a conclusion that all these toys were real people. Sadly to say, this is what the toy master would tell them, even though he doesn't have as much information as he does. He once tell them that these toys are human, somewhat, from what I can remember. And this would get Usopp to saying that what is Sugar's fruit, and they're done like a devil fruit power. And one of the guards would say that she can turn inanimate object like people into toys. And all the toys that were working, all the toys that's in the city, those were people. Really, those are people. Dressrosa has a horrific sight to it, a horrific story too, and it was very sad when I was like reading it, when I was like watching the show and stuff like that. You could really tell the damage that Doflamingo put on this city and put people through. It's very painful to watch, but not painful to watch, but it's just a very sad art to basically witness, though. Anyway, so with all that being said, now Doflamingo would start to get serious. He would start to manipulate the ground, manipulate buildings and everything, and start to fight against Straw Hat. And someone would go to scare Sugar. Now, Usopp would basically creep up into the castle and scare Sugar as hard, like literally scare the girl with so much fear. Now, of course, the other guys would arrest Usopp and beat him up and stuff like that, but Usopp would be unconscious on the ground and bleeding, but Sugar would be unconscious, and they would look at this and get shocked by this, and then every toy in Dressrosa would start to turn normal. They would start to go back to their normal state. All their memories would start to come flooding back, and then this is what happened. They would remember everything that happened. Dressrosa wasn't peaceful no more. They know that Doflamingo is not their king. They know Doflamingo is evil. And Doflamingo gets angry by this, seeing everything that happened. He grits his teeth and danger starts to fume in his head as he clenches his fists and blood starts to pour from his hands, leak from his hands. And he looks at Straw Hat. He lifts his hands up in the sky and creates the birdcage. And this is where Luffy would say, "What are you trying to do? Are you going to enclose everyone in this cage and kill them?" And Doflamingo just smiles at Luffy and say, "They all will die, but except for the Don Quixote family. They will die, but I won't." And this is where Luffy would say, "All right, very well then." Luffy would start to smile, and his heart would start to beat very rapidly as this rhythmic heartbeat would start to sound all over Dressrosa as Luffy's hair starts to melt. And I know in this picture right here, this is what you think it looks like, but Luffy's shirt is actually white and his hair is actually white. So yeah, Luffy's hair would start to ignite and turn white as his shirt would change from red to white, and his smoke ring would go around his neck. Luffy would start to bounce at the ground, and Doflamingo would be fighting against Luffy, throwing these strings at Luffy, but Luffy would just grab them and direct them right back at Doflamingo, turning them very rubbery. Like, Doflamingo would try to pierce Luffy with some of the strings, even coming from the behind and coming from his back, and try to pierce Luffy directly through the chest, and the strings would just bounce or just enfold on each other and just literally bounce right off of Luffy. And Luffy is just laughing at Doflamingo as he rushes through the sky, basically running on thin air, and punches Doflamingo directly through the face, literally. His hand is stretching through Doflamingo's face, and Doflamingo sees this, like he's witnessing this, and he feels it. But then when Luffy just lets go, and Doflamingo goes flying like a rocket through multiple buildings. Now Luffy then appears right behind Doflamingo and then grabs him by his leg, slamming him repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again, then spinning him around in a circle and slinging him up the air, rushing up in the air with his fist coated in armament hockey and delivering rapid punches over and over and over and over on Doflamingo. And Doflamingo is coughing up blood by this, so he gathers his strings and turns the building into strings and tries to. He gathers with power of strings that he can and hits Luffy with them, but Luffy just deflects it all, going into a buff form, and then smacks Doflamingo directly towards the ground with Doflamingo coughing up blood. He looks up, basically wiping the blood out of his eye, and this is where Luffy is just laughing hysterically, falling on the ground, bouncing everywhere, and just laughing at Doflamingo. And this is where Doflamingo gets angry and angrier by this, and he's trying to use everything in his arsenal to basically defeat Luffy, rainbow strings and everything that he can to defeat Luffy, but nothing's working to his advantage. And Luffy is noticing that he's putting off a lot of Conqueror's Haki, and it's making a lot of people fall unconscious. So Luffy says that he can't stay in this form for too long because he doesn't want too many people to fall unconscious, but this one attack will defeat Doflamingo. So Luffy rushes at Doflamingo, and then he hits him with a gum red hawk, and then followed by a gum red rock that knocks Doflamingo strictly through the ground. And then Luffy detransformed, breathing heavily. Now he doesn't shrivel up or something like that, no. Luffy just gets on his knee and starts breathing really heavily, exhausted from using that form. Now Luffy then looks up to the sky and sees that the birdcage is dissipating and it's basically disintegrating, and he looks around and says, "Okay, everything should be normal right now. Everything should be saved with this guy out the picture." Now, as part of the Don Quixote family, they all get defeated very easily since everybody got their memories back. Someone came in to help Usopp from getting killed and basically defeat the Don Quixote family. So yeah, Doflamingo got arrested, the Don Quixote family got arrested, and Dressrosa was finally set free. And everyone knew the secrets and everything and explained, so they basically were happy, started crying, they're free and everything, and most of the people would thank Straw Hat for basically giving them this chance of freedom. Now, the Straw Hats eventually had to leave with Fujitora there, and Fujitora using some of the destruction that Luffy created to basically threaten him to leave. And this is where he wanted to see Straw Hat's face. He wanted to see how smiley or peaceful it was, and he regrets that he blinded himself. So with that being said, Luffy and the Straw Hats, they leave Dressrosa and go on another journey. So now after leaving Dressrosa, they have this whole filler arc with Zoan, and it really is not much to get into or something like that. Basically equivalent to the Caesar or basically Fishman Island arc, but something like that. But it was not much to get into, but you can respect the journey. But now it's gonna lead into where an arc that's more well-rounded, like Whole Cake Island. An arc that left us on that island for 2 years. Anyway, so now we get to Whole Cake Island, and this is where the Straw Hats go to save, well, some of the Straw Hats, such as Chopper, Nami, Brook, Luffy, and Chopper, Nami, Brook, Luffy, I think was a few of them, but the rest of the Straw Hats then went to, Wano. So yeah. So they would go there to basically rescue Sanji and bring him back. But anyway, this is where we're going to leave part 2 to What If Luffy Awakened His Double Fruit Earlier. Let me know in the comments what you want to see in part 3, and I will have it out as soon as possible. I'm not going to put a like goal in this video. I just want you guys to be generous if you like the series thus far. But anyway, without any further ado, you guys have a good day, a good night, and plus ultra. Good night, guys.